welcome back. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Shay,
I'm Marissa.
and we are two
Two
girls
girls
with a
with a
case.
case.
Now, I am going to be taking over tonight and bringing you guys really it's a 2-for-1 whammy. Maybe like a 3-for-1 whammy. It is a series of cases about my hometown, and despite me being very sad to talk about this, I do feel like it is some things that needs to have light shed upon. So I'm gonna start it off by saying I was born in a place called Jasper, Texas. Now, if you're watching and you're like, man, I know this place. Well, yes, you're gonna know this place because a man named James Byrd was brutally killed here. It was a race crime, and we're gonna touch topic on that too. But the case I'm gonna present first is about a man named Alfred Wright. So, for a little bit more context, Jasper is like 2 hours this way from Houston. It is like an hour away from Louisiana. It is close to a city called Beaumont, Texas, Lufkin, Texas, Nacogdoches, Tyler, just a few areas up in there to name. But so this particular case, Alfred Wright, he was born on March 8th, 1985. He was a March baby. Now, on November 7th, 2013, Alfred, who was 28 at the time, placed a call to his wife because he had to pull over into this store, which is roughly 45 minutes out of Jasper, because his truck was overheating. The town he pulled over in is called Hemp Hill. Now, Hemp Hill is also known for like racism and just not a lot of good things. There also, let me trigger warn before I go even further, because these cases are very like brutal and not for the faint of heart. So if racial tension and things like that and hate get you down, please don't watch this because your mental health is much more important than this story. And we don't want you, being sad or dealing with these feelings if you're uncomfortable to do so. But if you are sticking it out, let's keep cruising. So in Hip Hill at the gas station that he stopped at, it was a liquor store. But if I'm not mistaken, that's that same store a black person was hung there. Like, yeah, just ended up hung. And when the police went to go retrieve the camera, the store clerk said that there was no footage, that the video was not working. Yeah, very, very shifty eyes. So
That's very convenient for her.
convenient. Oh, so he called his wife Laura to tell her what was going on. Alfred did. We're back on Alfred now. And an hour later, I think if I'm not mistaken, he called her again. And they said on the article he sounded distressed and like worried. The liquor store clerk said that she saw him run up a hill. And after that, when his parents came to pick him up, he was nowhere to be found. So on that Thursday, they put out a search warrant for him. By the following Monday, they called the search off. And I remember, so this case was happening, this happened in 2013. Yeah. I was a junior. No, I was a senior getting ready to graduate. And so I remember we didn't go search, but when they went to Beaumont to do like this rally and press conference, we were there like all day. The dad of this victim, he actually was my coach for like 2 years. He gave me my first ever paddling when I caught this white. I'm sorry, white people, okay, but I called this boy a cracker because he called me a nigga. So I was going for it. All right, you
Oh
just
my
gonna have to hear
God.
it. So he spanked both of us, me and the guy. So it was fair. It was a fair punishment. But so he was a pastor. He held a lot of like church lock-ins that I went to. So I knew him well. So this one was like this. this case is a very much personal case for me. But so, anywho, they called off the search the following Monday, and that already received a lot of backlash from a lot of the town leaders because they felt if it was a white person who was missing, the search would have still, continued. And so his dad and this reverend, his name is Pastor Lewis, and a bunch of other people, they went out into this clearing to search these woods in Hemp Hill. Now, funnily, or not funnily, but ironically enough, something I did not know is decades earlier, this same ground was searched because there was a space shuttle named Space Shuttle Columbia, which had, like, I guess, blew up. So
Oh,
there were, like, you remember that? And I didn't even know. I was like, what? But yeah, it happened there. So apparently they have found like pieces and stuff and like put it in a museum. And so the family went there. Well, first the police went and searched. They didn't find anything. The family went and searched. They didn't find anything. They end up going back about 2 weeks later. And a few feet from the original search grounds, that's where Alfred's body was found. He was found laying face down. He was stripped down to his underwear. He had one sock on, but two shoes still on. There was a piece, like a cutout piece of his scrubs, his nursing scrubs, found on a barbed wire fence, like just folded over. His tongue was taken out, his left ear was gone, his throat was slashed, his skin looked, I believe it said it was like pale, but his neck looked as if it had been bruised. And so I think the highlight of what really broke my heart about this case is his dad, because there was a trooper who said he couldn't get there to the next morning. So his dad sat in the car next to his son's body all night long. And no parent, no person should ever have to endure such a hardship after finding your baby like that, you know? And so one of the people, I'll put the links in here, who was on the trail with the family said you could smell the death in the woods. It smelled like death. And so when the original reports came out, they said that he had cocaine in his system. He had cocaine, like I think Xanax or something like that. And so the police said that he wandered into the woods probably because he was doped up, and animals and drugs pretty much did that to him. Animals took his ear off, they bit his tongue out. I guess the insects, decided they wanted his pants, just ridiculous stuff, surrounding the case. Now, what else I find interesting about this is there was a person charged. He was given 87 months in jail. So, first of all, he was only sentenced for giving him the drugs and for the murder. 87 months for this. His name was Shane Headnot, but this is the kicker, and this is why I don't believe it, because even if there, and they say they found like text messages and stuff between the both of them, but when a person was asked about Shane's character, he said he was never like that. He did say he wasn't always with him, but whenever he was in church or whenever he saw him out and about, he always had like a good head on his shoulder. He was always so sweet, like there was no way he could have done this. Now, I don't believe that. I mean, if because he had the wounds from the needle and stuff, but my issue with it is his body was conveniently found a few feet from where they originally searched. That's one. Number two, even if he had done drugs, there is no way a body could turn up that bad. What was he out there tripping on? Like,
numbers don't match with what they're saying happened.
right, like you would think from that Bigfoot was out there hunting him or something. And it's just sad that they wanted to cover up his murder. And worse, I believe they put an innocent man in jail, black man, conveniently, who, they pinned this crime on. Now, when we take it a little bit deeper as to why I also don't believe it, let me tell you viewers something. Jasper and Hemp Hill, these are places built on racism. Like, this Alfred Wright case was so out of pocket. I remember the Black Panthers came to Hemp Hill and they were doing a march, and it was so bad. Like, the KKK even said that they were going to come and do their own march. Yes. And so at one point, one of the Black Panthers leaders was in the sheriff's face. The sheriff of Hemp Hill was white. His daughter was a white woman, but she was married to Alfred, which is a black man, and they had two kids together. So the Black Panther told the white police officer, "You're mad that your daughter likes her men like she likes her coffee. Black, no cream, no sugar." So, as you can imagine, there is a lot of tension there. And if you don't think like, oh, that's not that bad, let's go even deeper. There's another case that I said I was going to talk about. James Byrd. Now, James Byrd was 47, I believe, when he passed. I have to do the math because I feel like we're going to roll with it. He was born on May 2nd, 1949, and he was killed on June 7th, 1998. So James Byrd was a black man who was well known by the community. He now, this is hearsay. What I've heard, I don't really know the truth to this, but the hearsay is he was actually like a bright man. But one night at a party, he wasn't watching his drink and somebody slipped something in his drink. And because of that, he became disabled and a little bit impaired. So one night around 2, James Byrd was walking back across Jasper to his home. Jasper is small enough where you really can walk anywhere you want. I mean, it may take you like 30 minutes, to get to the further parts, but it's just woods. It's woods, grocery stores, churches, and banks. That's it. So Byrd was walking in the late night hours. He was approached by a truck that had 3 men in it. Now, let me get their names right. It was John William King, Lawrence Russell Brewer, and Sean Allen Berry. Now, King had known Byrd for most of his life. They were friends, I believe, at one point. And so when Byrd saw the pickup truck, King offered him a ride. And Byrd, thinking like, this is my friend, gets into the back of the pickup truck. So once they get him into the truck, they give him a beer. And after they give him a beer, they start to beat on him. They beat on him, they pee on him, they insult him, they spray him in the face with black face paint, and then they bind him up by his ankles, attach it to the back of the truck, and they drag him for 3 miles. A little bit of a trigger warning once again. They drug him so far that pieces of his body literally came apart. He hit something really hard, and his neck and head were severed off along with his shoulder and arm. And if that was not worse enough, they picked up his body and dumped his mangled remains in front of a black church the next morning for the community to find it. And it was on a Sunday morning as well. And they proceeded to go to a barbecue as if nothing had happened. So he had been friends with one of them, but King was in and out of jail. And while he was in and out of jail, he ended up meeting another person in jail who later moved to Jasper with him. Now, the issue here with that is the two friends that King had, they were white supremacists. So they were already about that anger. There was a book found in their home called The Turnings. Wait a minute, because I wrote it down because I really wanted to include it. It was called The Turner Diaries, but apparently it was like a white supremacist book called The Turner Diaries. And one of them even went on the record to say if he could do it all over again, he would, because he just had no disregard for life or anything like that. Now, with both of these cases, the people of Jasper, white people really, have tried to make it seem like the news has hyped it up, that there's no racism there, there's no anger there, like there's no division. But these are not the first cases, or the only cases, I guess I should say, of Jasper. These are just the ones that caught national attention. Now, one woman, she sued the police department. She was a black woman because two white officers beat her up in the police station. And this James Byrd case was so internationally known that Barack Obama signed a federal bill into, and I'll have to go back and look it up because I was skimming over this part, but him and another president before him both signed in bills against things like this, against like lynchings and protecting, Black lives. And so I want to say even Alfred was quoted saying like when he grew up in Jasper, he grew up hearing the N-word a lot of times. They spit on him, they talked bad to him. And even I can attest for it. I grew up in Jasper and it was rough for me. And I remember, though I wasn't right out called the N-word, my principal, who was a white lady, told me to go back to where I came from, which my mom did not take too kindly to that. She was like, she came from my vagina, so you're not going to talk to her like that. And I was just like, solidarity, mama. But Jasper is a very small town. It is very like southern. And when I looked into more history, I learned that in Jasper, in Dixie, it's a place called Dixie. Now, so if I can explain it, where I used to live, Marissa, because the viewers, so the town is not that big, but then you could go this way and
Mhm.
you go out to what we call the country, and those are deep woods. I'm talking like oak trees up to the sky. There's
That
like,
time it dropped you off and to go back home.
yeah.
It was late night.
Mhm.
That
Yes.
there was the only lights on that road were coming from the vehicle.
And yes, and
Oh,
I think though you guys went through Lufkin, right? Like, no, you had to
we
go
went
through the
the other
country
way.
the other
Yeah.
way. Okay, because I'm saying like if you when you it is scary back there.
I
Like
think
if
we
you
like
go past.
crossed through like Buddha or something like that. Like we were
Mhm.
in there and I was
Yeah,
like,
and I'm saying like if you turn left, there's a big church. And if you turn left by that church and go back there, that's just woods and houses. There's like no stores, there's no street lights really. It's just like pastures.
yeah.
And if you go even further deeper in there, that's where Dixie is. That's where I used to live. And that has the oldest slave built church in Texas. It's 160 years old. It was built in 1853, and it is so long-standing that the mayor named the day, I think it's like a day in July, the Dixie Baptist Church Day, because it is the oldest
Oh,
standing. Yeah,
that's
so
awesome.
despite the hatred and the racism that goes on there, that made me a little happy to very happy to know that religion was based there and there was like refuge for people, of my color. um I also wanted to say how Jasper was really like a slave owner town. I did some research, I read some things. There were no free black people there. The first settler, his name was Bevel, and I lived on a street called Bevel Loop Street, and now I'm like, tear that name down. But anywho, he brought slaves in through there. And like I say, it was through Dixie where they brought the slaves in, which was even more, all of this is kind of full circle for me because I didn't really realize how, I knew Jasper was racist, but to know that like I lived in a place literally 5 minutes from that church, like when I got older and I lived in Jasper, I went on the road where James Byrd was killed. Like I had family who lived out there, and it's such a I never wanted anybody to know I was from Jasper because of those things. I felt embarrassed. Like who wants to tell people as a Black person, you're from this small racist backwoods town that doesn't really even care about your skin color? And I asked my mom if I could share this story because I really wanted to shed light on just hatred and racism. But she told me there's a place called Cleveland, Texas, which is like maybe an hour and a half away from Jasper. Cleveland, Texas is closer to Houston,
Mhm.
Texas. It's like one of the small towns. But so my mom told me that one night they had to lay on the floor with all the lights off, and my great grandma told them not to make a sound because the KKK were riding down the street that night looking for people. And I told myself I wasn't gonna cry, but it's just like it is so hard to even try to wrap my head around why people think that that's okay. And like I told her, y'all shouldn't have had to grow up like that. None of us should have to grow up teaching our children, okay, you got to get on the floor because these white people are coming, like you can't talk to them like that. You can't look at them like that, like it's just unfair. And I remember when I first went to Our Lady of the Lake University and I met Dr. Dyer, she asked me where I was from and I told her Jasper, Texas. And she was like, oh, that's where that man was killed. Oh, that's such a sad thing. And I'm like, damn, you're not gonna, I mean, for us to be known as that, like, there is just no justice here. And so back to James Byrd, two of the guys who received the death penalty, they are both executed. And then one of them, he is serving a life sentence in prison. And the other guy, Shane, I don't know if he's out of jail now in Alfred's case, but Alfred's wife has gone on record along with his parents to say they hands down believe that there was foul play involved and that pretty much his murder was covered up and blamed on another Black guy. And like I say, I hands down believe it because I even found this out, dude. Our mayor, or their mayor, because I'm not there anymore, but in 2013, there was a Black police officer who had been given this position. The mayor went on record to say that there were other qualified candidates who he shouldn't have beaten. They fired him so that way they could replace him with another white cop. They fired 3 Black city council members so that they could add 3 more white people in their spots. And it's just like, well, damn. How can y'all tell the news and media that racism don't live here when everything you're putting out is the opposite energy? Even in the Alfred Wright's case, the one of the policemen made a joke and said one of the hip hop policemen said that Alfred Wright was probably like just laying low, drinking a beer. And another sheriff, his name is, because I got his name, Sheriff Maddox. Listen to me well, brother. He joked that he was missing an important fishing trip to go and search for the body. You are an officer. That is your job to go and search for people. Like, if you don't want that title, then leave the position. Those fish are going to be there. This is a man's life. This is somebody's family. And I am always under the notion of if it was yours, this energy would be much different. If it was any one of y'all kids, y'all would be out here doing anything you could to find them. But because it was a Black person who you don't have interest in, or because you're mad at the fact that he was with a white woman who didn't even want you to begin with, you don't want to help. Now, 2 baby boys don't have a father. Like now a father doesn't understand. Now a father can't hold his son anymore. And like this community is going to keep getting torn apart until stuff like this changes. And so, like I say, I'm sorry, y'all. I get very emotional talk about this stuff because, ooh, I want justice for my people. But these are the 2 cases I wanted to bring. I was telling Sugar Cookie over here, I was very nervous about talking about these cases tonight because this is vulnerability for me. Like I know a lot of these cases make us feel some type of way, or I'm always raging, but this was my home. Like, I was raised here, and like I told my dad, I don't ever want to have a platform and not be able to speak my truth. And so, if you know anything about these cases, please let us know. I'm just gonna pin that in there before I let Sugar Cookie talk. And even above that, just be careful, guys. Watch your surroundings. Like, people will tell you that they're your friends and they're really not. So you just need to be careful at all times where you go and who you do it with. And if you have a good feeling that you shouldn't be there or you shouldn't be doing it, then please don't do it, because your life is worth so much more than you could ever even know. But anyways, Sugar Cookie, now I want your thoughts and concerns.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for being vulnerable enough to share that with me and the audience, because I know that wasn't very easy and it was very personal to you, so thank you. And also, regarding Alfred's case, was there, so like the autopsy, the police were saying, oh, it was animals and it was drugs, but was there ever like a second, like additional autopsy? Like, did the family get, were they able to get a second autopsy?
So if I'm not mistaken, they took his body to Beaumont, and in Beaumont, it was identified. They claim it was identified that he had a long, substantial amount of cocaine in his system. Like, they could apparently tell that there was like a long history of cocaine in his system, which I don't really understand how that works, but that is what was ultimately said, was that he did indeed have, drugs in him. And like I said, he had the little syringe pokes in his arm to suggest that he had been shot up with some kind of drugs, but his family refused to claim that he was not on drugs like they claim he was, and he wouldn't have done that. So the mother and the wife both think that basically he was force fed those drugs. So, yes.
Sort of. Has there been any other updates regarding like Alfred's case? Anything like the family has added since, from between when, like after the autopsy and up until now?
No, when I was going back and searching, all that I had really seen was that they hold down that they don't believe Shane was the one who did this. They definitely believe that it was a cover up, and they are blaming Sheriff Maddox and other people in the legal team because they feel like they just didn't care, like they didn't do their due diligence to even look hard enough. And just the mysteries around the death makes them believe that this was not just drugs. Like, their son, their loved one, was murdered. But since Shane has been arrested and in custody, there has been no more updates. It's just, yeah, it's like it's kind of a closed case, like they pinpointed their guys. So that was it. And I don't know really if it's because, like, his parents were older, and his older brother had actually went on American Idol. Like, he had brought a source of goodness to Jasper because he was using his platform, only to have a few months later his brother killed, and so I don't really know if they're gonna do anything about it. Like I said, I grew up with Coach Wright, but I didn't really, like, I don't like have his number, or anything like that to see if they're still gonna like look into it or if they're just gonna let it be. Um but in both cases, I do like that they took the high road and was just like, it's in God's hands. Like, we're going to pray about it, because you have to be very mature to have that mindset. Because I'd be like, everybody got to die. Like, you have to die until you tell me what happened to my son. So the fact that he's like, I'm going to let God deal with you, like, is just commendable. So, yes.
Oh, may Alfred rest in peace.
Yes.
May Mr.
Yes.
Byrd rest in peace.
Yes, and the only update I knew about James Byrd is that they had a bench for him. Um, At first it was like where the courthouse was, because they felt like despite all these heinous acts, the past shouldn't be forgotten. Like people need to know what happened here. Like this is important things. But they moved the bench to a less populated area. So obviously our lives still don't really matter there, because that's how they're acting. But once again, I I've been out of Jasper for like what, 3 years now. So I don't really know what all is going on down there. But I'm telling you, it's like whenever we do end up going home and we pass by certain areas, it's kind of like you can feel the animosity and tension. Like it just feels different, like you feel oppression and you feel the hatred and like all the bad feelings. And as soon as you get out of those areas, it's like, oh, I can breathe again. Like I'm free, So that's all I know about those two cases thus far. And honestly, now that I've shed light on them, I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't even really want to look into it no more, because I just feel like it rubs me the wrong way, and it just makes me mad to think that people can disregard lives so easily. Like that was somebody's dad, that was somebody's lover, that was somebody's child, and you just took them away because you hate the color of our skin, and that's just not fair. So that's all I know, guys. But if you know anything, or if you would like to know more information about these certain things, then please let us know in the comments. I will, like I say, if you guys want to know more about this case, now I can do some more digging. All right. It makes me emotional, but hey, I ain't want to back down from a fight. I will say one of the fears I had going in this is like, damn, what if they come after me? But I mean, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Okay. That is my motto. But yes, guys, thank you so much for listening to these cases. Like I say, this one was a very emotional one for me. I think because I'm still in the stages of really coping with the fact that like I was born in a place built off of hatred, and that's the case for most of us. It is just a little sore spot, but I'm glad that I have a best friend who allowed me to come on and talk about this. And honestly, y'all need to applaud her, because when I first mentioned like the case, she was the one like, are you going to talk about this? Because I want to know about this. So I am very grateful to have somebody who cares enough about me and my people to be like, let's right this wrong. So if you guys know anything else, or you would like to say anything else about this case, please comment. Please give us likes and hearts if you like this video. Subscribe for more content. We have more things coming up that we want to try and do on the channel. But we want to take care of this baby first and make sure we're doing right by it. And my lovely co-host, do you have anything else to say?
I mean, again, thank you for being vulnerable enough to share these stories because they are very
Gotcha.
personal to you. And nothing but love and light to the families of Alfred Wright and James Byrd.
And may you both rest in peace, guys. And I believe, I am a firm believer that justice will be served. I heard, yes, and let me end it on this note for anybody who may feel like discouraged or like, damn, because I know damn is my word, but sometimes you just feel like that when there's injustices. I've always been told, like, God will get justice. And his justice doesn't necessarily mean like he's gonna throw him off a cliff or like hang him, but he will deal with them in the ways that he sees fit. So take comfort in knowing that though we may not know how they spent their last moments, or the pain that they must have went through, I am a firm believer that we do have a God who will fight for us and get justice for us. So it's going to be okay in the end. So please take comfort and be encouraged. Hatred won't stop us. We will keep thriving and surviving for the rest of our lives. And me and Sugar Cookie will be here to bring you more cases and more, hopefully more laughs. I'm probably gonna have to find like a bunch of comedy cases after this. But anyways, we hope you guys tune in to us next week to watch this. And until next time, I'm Shay.
I'm Marissa.
And we are two
Two
girls
girls
with the
with a
case.
case.
Goodbye, guys.